Making sure that Rhode Island's food system is recognized as a significant part of the economy of Rhode Island. Production, increasing the amount of food. I'm Leo Pollock, I'm the network coordinator for the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. Thank you all. We're really excited about a great turnout tonight for a really exciting Food Matters. This is our second of 4 Food Matters this year. I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer Quigley-Harris in just a second to talk. But we always start, I want to just do a quick introduction to the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. The Food Policy Council is a 22-member body, but it's really a network of people statewide who are committed to strengthening Rhode Island's food system by working on things like policy change, organizing, establishing pilot projects. So we have, the Food Policy Council was launched in 2011 as really a body to be looking at how do we make for a stronger Rhode Island food system. 4 major goals towards that: access for all Rhode Islanders, economy, making sure that Rhode Island's food system is recognized as a significant part of the economy of Rhode Island, production, increasing the amount of food grown, caught, processed locally, and then also environment, ensuring that Rhode Island's food system is striving for 0 waste. So you'll see Food Policy Council members wearing tags. If you have any questions or you're interested in learning more or getting involved, please talk to one of the council members that are sitting around the tables, or follow up with myself or Jennifer after. So I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer, who has really been instrumental in helping get this set up for tonight.
Thanks. Everybody hear me okay?
No.
No? Better? Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jennifer Quigley-Harris. I work on communications and outreach for the Food Policy Council. Before we get started tonight, I really want to give a shout out and a thank you to Ginny Dunlevy and Tim McFade here. Thank you.
That was delicious.
This is the biggest crowd we've ever had for Food Matters, so I know that there are definitely groupies here who have come to our other ones. I thank you for your continued attendance, and for those of you who this is the first time here at Food Matters, welcome. The Food Matters meetings, like Leo said, are part of a networking event, so I hope that all of you have either connected with someone at a table tonight, re-met a colleague, met someone new. And as such, as those kind of meetings, we really encourage all of you to speak during the conversation. It is that, it's a conversation. We have a wonderful panel set up, but we encourage questions, we encourage comments. This is a room discussion, so I just want to give everybody here in the audience sort of their role in this evening's event. And our event is co-hosted this evening by Council members Melina and Brian Goldberg. Melina is the current chair of our economy work group. Her experience is working in organic farming and the food services industry, combined with her studies of food movement and public policy, led her to volunteer with the Food Policy Council in late 2011 when it was launched, and she's remained a very active participant ever since. Melina was one of the key team members at Brown in the creation of the Providence Food Ship. It's basically a mapping project that helps illustrate the way Providence grows, processes, distributes, and consumes food. He joined the council this past January, and he personally impressed me when he volunteered to help host this Food Matters event after only being a Food Policy Council member for a few hours. I'm not sure he knew what he was getting into, but so thank you for that. Brian was the Dean of Graduate Studies here at RISD, and he's currently Vice President of Strategic Initiatives. He's taught urban design in the Department of Architecture since 2002. His classes often address how the public shares and uses urban space with an emphasis on urban agriculture and physical movement. Brian also developed the Make It Better Symposium that looked at the relationship between art, design, and healthcare, and how artists, designers, activists, and health professionals can work together to reshape the built environment. I'm going to turn it over to Melina and Brian now, who are going to lead us boldly through this 8-person panel and discussion.
All to RISD.
It's my pleasure to volunteer to co-host this event, but I also was excited to be able to locate it here at RISD, and for being here, and I'm going to hand it off to Melina.
Going beyond sort of individual experiences towards a more shared expertise as it relates to the food system, and looking at sort of transferable lessons. What can we learn from one another, from our various perspectives in this overarching system and state and local economy? With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Bray.
I think with the history of the Livestock Association, which started in 2005, and Ken Ayers can certainly corroborate this, there was a lot of unknowns with how individual livestock producers could sell their meat directly to a customer by the cut, which was not legal at that time. But dealing with the Department of Health was an incredibly difficult process that took years. Because they didn't want to agree to anything. It took a lot of research with other organizations out of state, other USDA facilities. And don't find your allies, you know, the invaluable ally that we have, like I can't say enough about, is Mr. Ayers here and Scott Marshall at the Division of Ag. I don't think we could have gone where we are today and have the membership that we have and the number of animals that we're able to produce.
But so from some of the other questions, one of the things I thought I'd mention in terms of lessons to share, or just thinking about the importance of relationship building in this work, and how much of this work is about relationship building and networking. And Rhode Island is really small, which allows us to network much more easily. I think in the last week I've seen a number, I feel like half this room like 2 or 3 times, which is really great, and that's what allows things to happen, and bringing people together and having conversations like this one is really important, and is how sort of things happen. Raised Livestock was interested in selling meat at the farmers markets because there was a need and there was products, and so coming up with ideas that respond to demands in the market and relate to the skills and expertise that you have as a person or an organization or a network, I think is really important in building strong, successful programs.
From Rochs Fresh Foods, and I help Farm to School to help bring local produce to over 300 schools between Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. We work with 27 farms between Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. In Rhode Island alone, we use 14 farms, and we bring everything from fresh fruits and vegetables to honey and different items. We don't do seafood yet, but eventually I see that happening. We use no machines except for a washing machine. Everything in our building is done by local people. People in your neighborhood, they work for me. We went from 12 employees to 125 employees in the last year and a half, which is a huge growing pain all at once. We went from 7 trucks to 22 trucks out on the road delivering fresh fruit and produce to your Rhode Island schools, hospitals.
I'm Richmond, and I'm here for the local Ag and Seafood Act Grants program. And I think that the lessons learned from the program are still pretty fresh, since the first round of grants was just made earlier this month. I think one thing that surprised everybody on the advisory committee was the number of applications that came in, 92 applications, really showing an amazing amount of entrepreneurial activity and programs around entrepreneurial activity in the state. And I think one thing that really came to the fore in my perspective was the need for combining that access to capital with technical assistance, so that entrepreneurs and technical assistance providers have the resources that they need to develop the types of business plans, financial plans, marketing strategies, and those sorts of materials and plans that they need in order to really succeed and grow. So I will leave it at that.
I'm Lisa Raiola from Hope in Maine. I want to thank Brian and Melina for doing this, and Risty for hosting. It's very brave of you. How many people in the audience are interested in starting a food business? I'm just curious. So maybe a third. I feel like there's a lot of people cheering the food business on from the sidelines in Rhode Island right now, from senators to governors to people who make policy to just, it's sort of a cool thing to do, and they want all of you and all of us to be successful. But I feel like they're the cheering section watching WWF or a cage fight, as opposed to a well choreographed, ballet, for example. And part of that is because we're not ready for this in Rhode Island. And what we're doing at Hope and Maine, which is to build, first and foremost, is to create an important piece of infrastructure for people who want to start food businesses and make that more accessible and affordable. I can see, and we've learned very quickly, that that is just the first baby step almost in what now needs to happen, and it becomes an accelerant, because as soon as you have 200 businesses showing up at your doorstep saying, help me, you discover that when you've seen one small food business, you've seen one, and they all need different kinds of help that is just not readily accessible.
From Urban Greens Food Co-op. I'm on the board there, and we're basically working to start a consumer-owned grocery store right here in Providence. It's something that we've found challenging as well, and for her it was dealing with the Department of Health, with crossing state lines and these new types of issues. For us, it has much more to do with the concept of a co-op, the issues and challenges of a co-op, but it's introducing something new. What we've found in the case of Urban Greens is there's not a lot of familiarity with co-ops here in Rhode Island, and I think there are some great producer co-ops like the milk producers, Pretty Fresh, thank you. But when we think of consumer co-ops, I think it's still a very traditional idea to think of a small sort of natural food store that isn't where you could go and get your full groceries. It isn't where you would have affordable access to a wide range of products that are both local fresh goods and anything you need that you would normally get at a grocery store. And I think that's part of this new generation of co-ops that has come about and has played a leading role in many other states in really strengthening local food infrastructure. But getting across that locally where co-ops aren't familiar is a challenge, and I think so.
New York, where I'm part of an organization called Glywood, and the Hudson Valley is a historic apple region. So I've been asked to talk about my work related to hard cider. And the lesson perhaps that I could offer really has more to do with the way in which this work evolved very organically, recognizing again that there was an opportunity for apple growers in our region. We embarked on convening a group of producers who were interested in producing hard cider, looking at that as an opportunity for greater value for their apples, and started first by trying to address some production issues, specifically the lack of cider apple varieties that are well suited to hard cider production. And we had an opportunity to bring these producers in the Hudson Valley together with some producers of cider and calvados from Normandy in France, where there's a long tradition of producing these apple beverages. And what emerged from that experience was something that I hadn't quite anticipated, which really was the way in which the relationships amongst these producers coalesced. And what I was finding was that essentially these makers of hard cider we consider to be almost competitors in a small region were becoming more unified around the way they could operate as a group to
food entrepreneurs. First of all, I'm Alex Linko. I'm the program director for Fair Food Fund, which is a program of Fair Food Network. We're a 501c3 food systems nonprofit. And the Fair Food Fund program that I manage, we invest in local food businesses that support small and mid-scale farms in New England and the broader Northeast. And we do that by providing financing and business assistance. So my first piece of advice for emerging food entrepreneurs is start small and iterate. And I think it's been fantastic to hear. Second piece of advice is to ask for help. You know, we all, I think, as entrepreneurs and you know, maybe experts in our field, sometimes may have the tendency to think that we have all of the answers. Well, we're dealing with a complex system here, and so you know, I'm here to tell you that I certainly don't have all of the answers. A piece of advice, and this really gets back to something that Hannah said, is relationships, relationships, relationships.
I understand what we're saying about business and regulation and entrepreneurship and starting a business and all of that. But we're also talking about local food production and business, all of that. But I didn't hear anybody say, and I'm curious to know, I think there's a temptation to think that because we're locally sourced, that we're also organic and that we're doing, you know, sustainable agriculture and we're taking, so I'm just curious because nobody used those words. They don't want
bakery in a CSA manner called Community Bread. And one of the things that I've noticed as I'm going out and I'm selling my product is it's really, really hard to get into the farmers markets. They're very high cost and they're very labor intensive. So the labor
For a lot of our farmers is that there's a lot of little farmers markets in all different places, like the hospitals and Cox Communications and Gillette and lots of places like that where farmers can't bring your product into there. Instead, they bring it to us, and we really don't mock it up. It's really like a customer service aspect of what we do.
Kinds of things that a lot of people hear. We actually need the staff at the regulatory agencies to do the writing so we can have the new regulations so that it's easier to use. And that means we have to like fight back against the thing that, oh, the only thing we can do is cut taxes. I mean, the reality is cutting taxes doesn't help your economy, so why not be smart about it, invest in your infrastructure, invest in your systems so that you can do this efficiently.
Coming, enjoy the rest of the evening, and